Today on LawNext, I speak with Nicole Bradick, founder of the legal technology design and development firm Theory and Principle. This is Bob Ambrogi, and you are listening to episode number 1 of LawNext, the weekly podcast that highlights the innovators and entrepreneurs who are driving what's next in the legal industry. We'll get to today's interview in just a moment, but first, let's hear from the sponsors who generously support LawNext. And now, on to this week's interview. Nicole Bradick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. I'm really excited to be your first guest. I feel very honored.
Well, I couldn't think of anybody else I would have rather had as the first guest because you're somebody who has been involved in legal technology for a long time. You do a lot of thinking about legal technology in a constructive way, I think, and not everybody does that, unfortunately. You're all of 6 months into Theory and Principle, the company that you founded last January, but of course you've got an established track record in working in legal technology. You were formerly the partner and chief strategy officer with the legal technology development firm CuroLegal. You were previously founded Custom Counsel, a company that connected freelance attorneys to law firms and corporate legal departments.
Yep, that's all true.
That's all true. So given all of that, it was interesting to me that barely a month after starting your company to develop technology, one of the first things you did is publish a blog post titled, "Technology Can't Solve All of Our Problems." That might strike some as counterintuitive that you would do that. So why did you want to publish that article at that point in time?
Because I'm really good at business development.
And did that help?
And I don't have any PR and marketing people on my team at that time. So no, I think what I was responding to is what I had observed as being an over-reliance on technology, particularly in the justice space, which is, a big area of focus for us. Probably about half of our work is focused on the justice space. And it felt like everybody was sort of jumping into building technology to solve all these problems. And, my big concern is that if we make building technology look like the way to solve problems, then people stop doing the hard work, which is, real systemic change. And I think that a lot of these law school courses that we see, a lot of these programs that are out there for access to justice technology, they all make building stuff look really easy. And the way they are building it is really easy. They're typically, these projects are small side projects, or people are building without proper design support. They're not using, the sort of best practices in developing software. And that's really easy. And so my call to action was to either teach people to do this the right way, which is hard. Building successful products is really hard, even if you've built 1 million products before, or make sure everybody understands that these little projects are probably more a learning exercise for the person building it, as opposed to being something that's actually going to be useful in affecting the change that people want to affect.
Well, one of the points you made in that article is that there is a lot of bad legal tech out there, and bad being your word, not my reading between the lines. So what is bad legal technology, and why do you feel it's important to kind of call it out?
Yeah. And honestly, so this company that I now own, Theory and Principle, our mission is to make legal tech less bad. Again, I could really use a marketing person.
That's a good motto. I like that.
I use harsher words in other mixed company, but
less suckier,
non-mixed company. Less sucky. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can build bad technology. You can build bad technology by building something without really thinking about whether or not anybody wants to use it, or deciding that people want to use it without trying it out with them. It's really this sort of early validation process. And so bad technology, even if it's beautifully designed, is technology that nobody actually wants. The value proposition is not there. There's no fit between this product and the intended users. And it's so critical and it's so foundational, and it's something that is so often skipped. I mean, we get calls all the time from clients saying, or potential clients saying, hey, we got this thing we want to build. Can you just go build it? And, we have to be like, well, okay, let's just take a few steps back. And let's before you spend a lot of money on us, I would be happy to take your money, but I want you to build something successful. Let's take some time and build a prototype and test it with users and make sure there really is value there for those users. So that's a really easy way to build a bad product. The other really easy way to build a bad product, which is probably the most common sin amongst people developing legal technology, is just the lack of good design. So many of the apps that you see out there, the web applications, the mobile applications, are built without even the hand of a designer. And especially sort of in the justice space, a lot of them are sort of engineer designed. And, my engineers are awesome, but I would never in a million years want them to design a product. It's just, that's not a skill that, I would say there's probably two people on earth who are really good developers and then also really good at designing products. So it just often gets skipped and overlooked.
So can you give,
and then,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, yeah. And so I think even beyond even if you have designers involved, so many of these products, especially the legacy products, like the newer SaaS products, think about Clio. It's a beautiful experience. But a lot of the more legacy products, or perhaps the less well-funded products, just have really, really poor user interfaces and really poor user experience design. And so even if you do have that product market fit, even if you have something that will provide value to the user that you intend, if it's not something that anybody can use easily without friction, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to use it. It's going to fail. And I think or they're going to be really frustrated while they're using it, and then we'll use it the wrong way, and then there's so much of that in this space.
Yeah. Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of a bad legal technology? You don't have to name names necessarily, but even if you can describe an experience you've seen or something.
Okay. Yeah. I think the number one obvious example is Pacer. It's a big example, right?
Yeah.
But it's when I practiced law, I had to, I could not file anything on my own. I had to have my assistant do it because she was the only one who had figured out how to do this successfully. And that's really dangerous in things like Pacer, where, really important things are at stake. And if the interface is so challenging that nobody can use it, then you're going to have errors just based on the fact that your technology is not usable. We've seen this happen with other court products for sure. And then, consumer-facing products, I don't know. I don't want to call anybody out, but there's a lot of bad.
Yeah. So you named your company Theory and Principle. What's the significance of that name? What are you trying to convey?
Yeah. So we have a fundamental principle in this company, which is that, law is a foundation of our democracy, and it's a sort of cornerstone of our society, and it needs to function properly.
Are you rethinking that at all in light of this week's news?
Oh, yeah. That's like 10 other podcasts, Bob. So we have these sort of core principles that we are always sort of tethered to, and that everything we're building, we don't want to build any bad products because we think what we do is really important, even if it's just like an efficiency tool for a lawyer or a marketing tool for a law firm. It's all really important. The communication of law, the way people interact with the law, it's a big responsibility, and we take that very seriously. So we have this sort of core principle. And from these principles, we've developed a lot of theories about how to best support the rule of law, how to best help consumers get the help they need. And we draw upon those and upon experiences that we have, building tons of products over time to sort of just keep doing better and better.
So tell me about a typical client who walks in your door. What are they looking for, and what type of client are they? Who are they likely to be?
Yeah, so I would say we have three distinct types of clients. One type is a law firm. It could be a small firm, but more typically a large law firm, and their interests tend to be more in the space of how do we find opportunities to improve our service delivery to our clients, or how do we add value to our clients who we currently have, in order to sort of keep them and keep this relationship of a trusted advisor. So think about apps like Baker McKenzie has like 20 apps in their app store, in the app store. Like, they're all free apps for their clients, and they're intended to be, hey, you can really rely on us. We're going to give you this information for free, the stuff you can Google search anyways. But then if you need us, we're here for you for the higher level stuff. So I would say most law firm related stuff is focused on that, or focused on efficiency, that type of thing. The second kind of client we have are legal tech companies. So all the way from like brand new startups who want to build their MVP, all the way up to the enterprise big guys. And what we're typically doing there is user experience or user interface, either consulting or actual design work. For the smaller companies, they tend to not have designers on board. And so if they need help, building out a new feature, prototyping something, testing something, we can sort of be plugged in as their outsourced design team. And then for the larger guys, it's more, those are bigger projects like reskinning an older legacy product, reskinning the front end, or doing an outside expert review of their user experience if they're having some particular issue, and trying to give them advice on how to improve that overall experience for the user. Third type of client is more in the justice space. So typically foundations, organizations that have more robust budgets, that have a social impact focus. And so those could be, I've identified this certain problem that I think there's a technology solution for, or it can be, we have this very specific thing that we want to build. Can you help us build it? So it's pretty broad. We are focused on one industry, which sounds narrow, but as you know, this industry is so broad. So there's a lot of interesting opportunity.
Yeah, and the last point you made raises an interesting question, because I know that you have a strong interest in access to justice and in technology that helps enhance access to justice. But there's so little money available to develop that kind of technology. You just said, your clients include foundations that have money, that have deep pockets. Mm-hmm. How do you get around that problem of wanting to develop technology to serve poor and lower middle income people, when there isn't investment in that kind of technology or money to fund the building of that kind of technology?
So if you want a product to have its highest chance of success, and success can be defined as, giving people access to the resources they need, or, having them easily solve some legal problem that they have. If you want it to have a reasonable chance of success, there are just certain things you need to do in order to make that happen. So we believe that we shouldn't take shortcuts. And so custom development is expensive. There's no question about that. And it's expensive to build, and it's expensive to maintain. But I think part of the problem is when we're thinking about whose budgets we're looking at, we're thinking about a lot of smaller legal aid organizations who have small budgets. And it's probably a very unpopular opinion, but I don't think these small organizations should be building their own products, because they don't have the resources to build it in a successful manner. And if you're not going to build it in a way where it has a likelihood of success, then it's sort of wasted institutional effort that could be better used doing something else. So I do think there is money. I think that we all need to stop doing our own little projects all over the country that are, kind of done in a half-assed way, and combine forces and combine funds and build one product that they all can leverage, or build, everybody's building the same thing in the justice space. Everybody's building expert systems. Everybody's building chatbots. Everybody's building triage systems. Like, there's no reason why we need to be building all this sort of patchwork of small projects all over the country. It's just, it's simply unnecessary. And I think the end result is a lot of less successful products with a lot of less utility for the user.
We'll get back to my interviews in just a moment. But first, let's take a break to hear from the sponsors who generously support LawNext. And now, let's continue this week's interview. Are the clients who coming to you with a problem or coming to you with an idea of how to address a problem?
It's both. My favorite one is if it's just a problem, because that gives us, really a blank slate to go out and do all the research and so be on the ground and understand the problem. And then, I think you can't even think about solutions until you fully understand the problem space. So our favorite ones are when people come with an identified problem and they think there is a technology solution to it. But we certainly get people who have ideas, and those are the people we encourage to step back a little bit and do some of that early discovery and groundwork to make sure that idea is one that really is going to mesh with the user. But sometimes they come to us having done that legwork themselves.
Have you ever turned them away or worked with them for a while and said, no, maybe technology isn't the solution to this problem?
So I have turned away a lot of clients who are... sometimes I get calls from small firm lawyers, particularly, and they have all these ideas of things they want to build to improve their internal systems, and then to perhaps package and sell to other small firm attorneys. I would say 75% of the time when I get those calls, I end up advising them that they can accomplish all the things they want to accomplish using Clio and 10 of the integrations that Clio has. Or some other practice management system that has a lot of integrations. I discourage people from building if I don't feel like they have the capacity or the long-term resources, or if it just doesn't make sense. If there is a buy option out there, you should definitely do that before you build. And sometimes you can do the buy and then use that as sort of your test and prototype. And then if you really think there's a marketable solution out there, then you can build and then sell it to other people. But I definitely try to discourage people from building who I don't think can handle the long-term burdens of owning custom technology.
Yeah. And in those cases where you think it makes sense to go forward, how do you... and give us the short version of this. I realize a long process, but how do you get from problem to prototype? I mean, how do you kind of figure out the best way to tackle this and what to build?
Yeah. So, first we have an initial sort of discovery phase, and that includes doing a ton of just, understanding what data already exists in the public domain about these users or about the problem, going out and interviewing both who we think the potential users are, who we've sort of mapped out in a workshop early on, who we think the user is, and that's sort of a provisional persona. And then going out and interviewing a lot of those folks that fit that provisional persona, and as well as like people who work with them all the time. And then sort of once we have a full understanding of what the problem is, then we start thinking about solutions. And then we have sort of workshopping ideation sessions where we throw a lot of ideas on the table. We spend a lot of time sort of grooming those concepts and try to land on a few, and then go out and test those with this person who we think is our user. And often that time, then we'll find, great, there's like 100% validation. This is perfect. Or we find out, I think this is the right product. I don't think this is the right user. Like maybe a personal injury attorney is going to be a much better user for this product than a real estate attorney. Or we don't have the right product at all for the user that we want to solve for. So that's all a pretty important part of the process. And then once we have something where we've gotten some validation, that's when we go into design and build.
So do these ideation sessions involve a lot of beer and pizza?
Most of what we do involves a lot of beer and pizza, Bob. Yeah.
I've been to your office, so I guess I can attest to that a little bit.
Yeah, we have a new waterfront office, August 1. You're going to have to come up and see it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I didn't even
Yeah.
say you're based in Portland, Maine. I guess it doesn't really matter where anybody's based these days.
No, and we certainly don't do any work for anybody here. All of our work is around the rest of the world.
Yeah. So are there any projects that you've worked on that you can talk about? I mean, can you give us an example of something you've developed that you're particularly proud of or can talk about? I realize a lot of it that's in progress probably can't be talked about. But.
Yeah, so a lot of the products that we built under our former flag at Curo. So those are the ones that are sort of out in public, and there's a lot of them I'm pretty proud of, especially the hate crime one that you were involved in. I'm pretty proud of how that interface turned out and how easy it is to use. I think we did a pretty good job making something complex be very simple. Under our new flag of theory and principle, we haven't rolled out any products yet. The one I can talk about is a product we've been working on for about a year with the IOLTA Fund in Illinois, Lawyers Trust Fund. And it's a product that's designed to help low-income tenants in Chicago sort of understand their rights, help them self-help where it's appropriate, and then if they need assistance, we've built a system to bounce them over to a platform that helps legal aid attorneys and pro bono attorneys provide discrete legal services. So, our idea there is most of these folks just need like a quick consultation or a lawyer to look once over a letter to a landlord, that sort of thing. So we give pro bono attorneys or legal aid attorneys the ability to have right in front of their face the essential information they need to help this person, and automate and suggest the documents that we think programmatically are what this person needs, and let the lawyers sort of automate the creation of those documents and review, and then also provide pro bono attorneys with resources on that specific issue in the event they don't quite know how to handle that just yet. So it's really like an overall system designed to make discrete legal services truly discrete, where you can sort of do it quickly and help a lot of people really as fast as you can.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So you've been, as I said earlier, you've been at this about 6 months with your own company. You learn anything in those 6 months about running your own company? I mean, again, you're not new to sort of being.
No, I'm not. This is my third company, so I feel like a weathered veteran of this stuff. So, I think the thing I've learned, I've learned a lot. I've run two companies I own 100% and a company with a partner. I've learned a lot about sort of the strengths and weaknesses of both options. The thing I know for sure is that the most important thing about any business is the team that you have around you. And I've had the same group of engineers for years now, and designers, and it's right now we're definitely pretty slammed, and we're trying to grow and do a bunch of hiring, which is, I think, a good sign for the industry. But I'm not sure if there have been any new learnings. I mean, I think the nice thing about having done this several times is that I can come into this a lot more confidently and understand exactly what I need to be doing. And, I've made a lot of the mistakes already.
Yeah.
So
that's a good thing.
So things like, little things like, I was wondering the other, part of our Q2 strategy was trying to figure out if there's a market for us in corporate legal departments. So I did a lot of sort of informational interviews, a lot of sort of market research interviews, and found that, there really isn't a good market for us there right now. And I think old me in prior companies have just been like, oh yeah, corporate legal departments, that sounds like a good thing. Let's go to all the conferences and work our tail off to try to sell this stuff. But I think with maturity comes some discipline too in what to pursue.
Yeah. And what are your long-term goals for your company? Where are you going to be 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah. I really think right now, as far as I am aware, and I think probably as far as you're aware, we're the only shop that I know of that has this distinct focus. I would like
on the legal system and legal technology and yes. Justice technology. Yeah.
Yeah. So exclusive focus on law and justice issues. So I would like in 5 years for us to be the absolute go-to organization for anybody around the world who's thinking about building one of these products. And I think that probably will involve setting up some offices in other countries. And, I think we will have some ancillary products too to the services that we're offering. Nothing robust. I don't want to own a SaaS company in addition to owning a service business. But I think there are a lot of sort of common requests and low-hanging fruit out there that we can build and make that really easy for people to create some of those sort of common products. We've got pretty aggressive growth plans for the next 5 years, and I've learned not to project further than that.
Well, thanks a lot for being the first guest on my first podcast. I really appreciate it.
Bob, thank you. This was so fun. And I think this is going to be a wonderful thing for you. And I hope everybody listens to Bob's podcast because he rules.
I hope they do too. And I'm going to have to sell Clio some sponsorships after the number of mentions they got in this show. So.
I know. I didn't mean to do that.
They'll appreciate it. They'll appreciate it. It happens to
be a really good example, but yes, there are many great products out there.
Yeah. Well, that does it for today's show. If you like what you heard, leave a review in Apple Podcasts and be sure to subscribe to receive future episodes. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks a lot for listening.